Well, those raids that took place today against Mr. Chidambaram and Lalu Prasad Yadav came just hours before the Congress pulled out some of its best and brightest young leaders at a press conference to take on the BJP as it marks 3 years in power. The dreams of Achhe Din have been shattered, said the Congress, while the BJP called them helpless.
एंटी रोमियो स्क्वाड्स का गठन, जहां हर एक व्यक्ति के साथ पूछताछ की जाए, उसे परेशान किया जाए, यही इस सरकार की विचारधारा और नीति रही है। दिन प्रतिदिन इस देश के करोड़ों दलित भाइयों और बहनों के साथ अत्याचार किया जाता है और ये सरकार मूक दर्शक के रूप में देखती रह जाती है। एक तरफ कहते हैं 56 इंच की छाती पाकिस्तान को हम दिखाएंगे और दूसरी तरफ सारी शॉल की डिप्लोमेसी होती है। 3 साल देश बेहाल, यही है भाजपा का कमाल।
The Congress has become helpless in the face of the massive popularity of Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi. Instead of introspection about where they are going wrong and why they have lost the faith of the people, I think they are raising non-issues which the nation is not willing to accept.
Well, Jyotiraditya Scindia, Lok Sabha MP of the Congress Party, joining us for this part of the program tonight. Mr. Scindia, the question that that is often asked is that on a day like today, obviously you're going to look at the government's report card because that is what we're marking. We're looking at Mr. Modi's 3 years in power. But does the Congress and does the opposition as a whole have any idea or any narrative to counter the ideas or the schemes of this government? Do you have your own narrative which you're offering to the people beyond criticizing the Prime Minister?
Well, as a responsible opposition, Nidhi, it is our job to ensure that the government is kept on its toes throughout its term. The government fulfills the aspirations that it set out in its own campaign for the election. And wherever there are any shortcomings or travesties being committed against the Constitution or the people of India, those are issues that it is our job as a responsible opposition to highlight. That being said, in the press conference today, I also said that it's equally important for us to construct our own narrative. It is pertinent and imperative for us to do so. And I am confident that in the run-up to the next elections, which now is less than 24 months away, the Congress is going to put together its blueprint for a new resurgent India from 2019 to 2024.
But are we going to have to wait for that blueprint for 24 months or 20 months? I mean, should we have some idea of what that blueprint might look like? And I ask you that because...
Well, that blueprint that...
Yeah, no, I'm asking you that because there is a sense that the more you criticize the Prime Minister alone, it actually works to his advantage because it's only a criticism of Narendra Modi, but that the opposition doesn't go beyond that and give people an alternative.
Well, there are two types of political think streams in this country. The first, Nidhi, is one that overcommits and grossly underdelivers. The second is one that probably undercommits but overdelivers. And I would rather have the Congress party be the latter than the former. And that has been our track record in the past. Of course, the pillars that will consist of that blueprint are very clear. There has to be an environment of tolerance, of secularism, of a peaceful environment across the length and breadth of this country. Wherever there are incidents, they need to be dealt with immediately, whether it's harassment against women, whether it is against any section of society. On that foundation, if you will, must stand pillars of economic growth, and that must consist of certainly steps for agriculture, steps for industry, and most importantly, steps for the youth of this country in terms of employment.
But before I
Today, the biggest tragedy is that you have rampant unemployment today in this country.
No, you have there is an issue of unemployment. There are several other criticisms that you made today. But let me ask you that at the moment the Congress is still trying to get its act together after the debacle of UP, and in that scenario, what is the big idea that you have to take on the government, to take on the BJP, when your own house doesn't seem to be in order at the moment? And, is there genuinely going to be any opposition unity to take on the BJP? Because right now, it seems very disjointed.
Well, I think opposition has shown its unity many a time in the last 3 years of Parliament, whether it was issues such as the land bill, to issues such as farmers' suicides. Across the board, opposition has shown unity. I am very confident that the Congress party will craft this blueprint and present it before the people, and it will consist of the pillars that I have talked about. And also in a state that is very important to all of us as Indians, the state of Jammu and Kashmir, the untenable situation that you have today is certainly caused out of an environment which is bereft of any development and progress. In the UPA term, where you had close to 6.5 to 7% GDP growth rate, you had tourism flourishing.
You're not
Today we are back down the spiral
part of my question on the Congress's internal problems.
A vitiated atmosphere.
But you're not answering the part about the Congress's internal problems.
I think the Congress party is very clear in terms of crafting its change. And that is what we are in the throes of as we speak.
Mr. Pawan Verma, before I get Nalin to respond to this, the big question is whether the opposition can really unite. Nitish Kumar says he doesn't have ambitions to be Prime Minister. But is it possible for big personalities like Nitish, Mamta, Naveen, Rahul Gandhi, is it possible for the opposition to really, come together before the next general election? Do you see that possibly happening with all the egos that are involved?
Of course, it's a difficult task. The greatest untruth would be to say publicly that to forge an opposition unity which is based on a credible ideological narrative and which presents an alternative vision of India, which has an appeal directly to the people and which negates or at least reduces sterile egos and creates a compact and practical and functional team. It's a very difficult project. But I believe that in a democracy you need a strong opposition and the attempt has to be made. And let me tell you, to your first question, which is 3 years of BJP rule. Not everything is bad, and equally not everything is good. When you draw a balance sheet, because I don't want to act in a predictable political manner. When you draw a balance sheet, you do see some very outstanding breach of promises, especially with regard to farmers, with regard to jobs. You see complete backtracking on foreign policy issues. You see a complete neglect of least developed states. You see packages being announced from public rostrums repeatedly on which not a naya paisa has moved to least developed states like Bihar. So you see a picture where there is a great deal of projection and promotion and hype, and when you come down to the facts, perhaps there is very visible shortage of delivery, but that may be so. No government is perfect. There are 2 years ahead for it to try and recover the ground. I am saying the challenge today is for the opposition, because you don't have the time. And can you show the maturity and statesmanship?
No, and that's
to forge something which is a counter to a relentless electoral machine run by Mr. Amit Shah and Mr. Narendra Modi.
That's an important point. A relentless electoral machine is how Nalin Kohli, somebody from the opposition, is describing the BJP, and rightly so. The BJP is clearly on a roll, and you have state elections coming up where you're likely to do well again. But however, would it be a mistake also to underestimate the opposition and even the Congress in politics?
No, we don't underestimate anyone. It's not correct also, nor do we desire to. each one will be judged before the people on the basis of what they are able to present. So they are entitled to try and forge an alliance. This has been attempted many times over several decades. In the last decade, many times it's been spoken of. So far, it's remained a mirage for whatever reason. If they are able to come together, build a clear narrative, so be it. That is exactly what they will present themselves with. Let me come back to what Mr. Scindia said. To me, it's a little amusing that not in terms of personally, but about the Congress party, going ahead and giving a report card even before the government has come out with its report card. That report card of the government will be due, the figures will be there, everything that the government wants to say will be out there. But the Congress party has chosen, and I believe very deliberately, to come out of its castigation of the 3 years of Narendra Modi government before that report card is made public, because perhaps they may not have had a narrative to build on. That narrative is based on very broad principles, not specifics. Among those broad principles, I'll pick up two. Mr. Scindia spoke about constitutional and about secularism and harassment of women. So let's take one. Triple talaq is an issue. The BJP stand is very clear. Where does the Congress party stand with the triple talaq issue, which is currently there? Clearly an issue of women's rights for Muslim women. Second point, with regard to the UP election where the governor was speaking, we saw the spectacle of the Congress parties and Mr. Rahul Gandhi's particularly close alliance partner, Mr. Akhilesh Yadav's party, throwing paper missiles at the governor and even blowing a whistle while dancing in the well. So that constitutional position, where does the Congress stand? With regard to the BJP, we are willing to be judged on the highest standards that can be raised of us and the maximum questions that can be asked of us. Where has a public policy been ever announced in this? Well, why don't we pick up electrification of villages? 19,000 villages were not electrified ever in the last 70 years. The Prime Minister raised it on 15th August. Some 13,000 plus have been done. If I speak on power again, Piyush Goyal's ministry has jumped 73 spots because of the work done.
Let me just take a couple of things
work
you said.
Is happening.
To
Aarti
first and then to Mr. Scindia again.
But then you will say that I'm making this a political speech.
Well, well, you have every right to. You are all political parties. But Aarti, when you look at how sort of this report card versus report card is playing out, at this crucial time, before the presidential elections, before the next general election, is opposition unity a possibility, a real possibility against the BJP?
You know, Nidhi, I think that the opposition is now with its back to the wall. You know, all these raids that are happening, as Pawan said, this relentless electoral machine of Amit Shah and Modi. I think that they're pretty much with their back to the wall, and there is a sense of you know, desperation in these opposition parties that if they do not unite, they will not be able to stop this electoral machine. So I think they're trying very hard. The problem is not whether they can get together. The problem really is...
Who lead them?
Yeah, I think first, the leadership. Do they have somebody who can actually match Narendra Modi in terms of his connect with people and, you know, the charisma? And the second is the narrative. Because, you know, it's I mean, you know, all this stuff about LED bulbs and all is, you know, that's not the point. The point is that I think the BJP has managed to spin a emotive narrative based on nationalism, you know, on hyper-nationalism, ultra-nationalism. And so what is happening is that the, you know, opposition is constantly on the defensive, because if they say anything, somehow they get branded as anti-nationals. And they're not being able to counter that. I think that is the real problem today.
That's an interesting point.